Well, here we are, folks. We're in our 8th excerpt in this series. And in this series, we've been through Matthew, we've been through John. We're going to look at Luke again. We spoke of Luke earlier, and the reason we spoke of him earlier is that he was such a personable guy that he shows up in many of the books. And here he is, his account of he has an account in here of 74 names in his account. He names more names of people in his book than anybody else, showing that he was a man that got around. He was a people person. He got around people, and then he found out what they had in their mind, what they knew, who their grandmother was and their mother was, who their great-grandmother was and their ancestors, and where they had come from and where were they born originally and what was in their background. And this is what he found out. So he traced the background from the time he met a person, and he went all the way back to Joseph, and he went all the way back to Adam, the father of the human race. Now Luke was not satisfied with a lukewarm thing. He wanted it all the way, and he wasn't satisfied at all with anything cold. He wasn't going to fool with it. He wanted to make sure that it was right and that he could get backed up by other people. And he traces the line of David through another son, Nathan. In 2 Samuel 5:14, we find that out. That now we're not going to just have David's lineage coming down through. We're not just going to have the very husband of Joseph's lineage coming down through, but we're going to have the lineage of Mary coming down through, and John's going to make sure of that. And this is what he did. He gives the line of Mary as he goes on. And the special note, there are several problems involved in both of these genealogies. What are those problems? Let's address them right now. We're going to address them. Joseph, father, is said to be Jacob by Matthew 1:16, while Luke says he was Haley's son. And the ancient world often referred to the son-in-law as their own sons. Thus Haley was really the father of Mary, many believe, and the father-in-law of Joseph. So what happens? Especially if I would say I was an old crippled man and my daughter married a healthy young strapping boy, I'd call him son too. I'd say, son, you are now my son, because he is your son-in-law, but he's probably going to be your son too, and he'd take over the farm and wind up, when you die, he winds up with it. That's what a son does. He gets what the man has. He becomes the heir. And so the son-in-law can become the heir. But names are a little bit tricky sometimes in the Bible. Now, Satan was keenly aware of the fact of the line and the leading to Christ would go through David's seed. He thus apparently attempted to break the link of royal chain somewhere with an advent. King Josiah, the 19th link from David, it appeared that the devil had successfully succeeded. For God pronounced the following curse on this wicked young ruler. Now, let's look at something. The body of a man can do completely opposite of what the mind of a man wants to do. It's according to what he is susceptible to. Today, in today's drug world, I know some people that had money. I know some people that had good jobs. I know some people that had a wife and a family, a good one. I know some people that were in the church and following the Lord. And all these people I just mentioned all got in dope, and the dope ruined every one of them. Carried them completely down and destroyed them, and they can't live without it. And so, thus saith the Lord, write to this man, childless, a man that shall not prosper in his days, for no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting upon the throne of David and ruling more than Judah. Now, here's a man that God cursed in his life, but he didn't say anywhere in that man's life, he did not say anywhere that man would not have children. I studied that. I studied it from end to end. It was not part of the curse that he would not have children. The prospering he was talking about was completely different than him having children. All right. This declaration did not mean that he would not have children. Well, here it is right here. For 1 Chronicles 3:17 and 18, some are named. See also Matthew 1 and 12, what it did mean by divine judgment. This king would be considered childless as far as the throne of Judah was concerned. So whatsoever it meant, it seems that the royal line of David and Solomon had ground to a stop in Jehoiakim, and called, he also was called Kohan and Jehoiakim in the Old Testament. See Jeremiah 22:24, 2 Kings 24 and 8. But what a rude shock. What a rude shock when the devil was not limited to the one line. David had another son named Nathan. And it was through this line that Mary, the mother of Jesus, came. She came through the line of Nathan, another son David had. David had a lot of sons, and he had sons by different women. But God overlooked much. Matter of fact, God overlooked every single solitary thing in a big sense of the word that David ever did in the flesh. Because God said David was a man after my own heart. But David did a lot of things in the flesh that were not pleasant. They would not be considered godly in any way, shape, or form. But God wasn't looking at the flesh that David did. God knew the devil was trying David. At all times the devil was trying his best to get David. But you know what David did when he was in the cave? He's in the cave with a king. A man that's a king. And David said, I should not touch God's anointed. He was an anointed king of God. And David repented and made him feel real bad that he cut a piece of cloth out of the king's robe right by where his butt was. That was a tradition in that day. If you could sneak up and get a man's piece of clothes right where the man's butt, when he's walking, his butt shows. And David cut that piece of cloth out, and then he goes over on the hill and waves the cloth and said, hey, king, look, this is how close I was to you last night. David and his men were in that cave when the king came in. They lined up on the wall and were dead silent and stand there in pure darkness and waited. And when the king and all them went to sleep, they walked out of there. They could have slew them all right there, right then. Could have cut the king's head off. And David didn't do it. He said, I will not touch God's anointed. And it repented him that he did the little thing that he did in the flesh. In the flesh. He did that little thing in the flesh, and it repented him that he did. See, his heart was after God. It repented. Every time David sinned, it repented him. When he sinned with Bathsheba, it repented him. Man, if you're watching this, remember, keep your eyes at home. Keep your eyes at home. You know what David did? First thing he did, he was supposed to be on the battlefield, and he wasn't. Second thing he did, he looked twice. Then 3 times, then 4 times. Then he sent, and he got her. And I've seen men today, in this day, this age, in the very church I'm in, fall the exact same way. I'm talking about godly men. I'm talking about good men. I'm talking about men that you could hang your hat on, you really trusted them, believed in them, and they did.